At a time when the Spear Danes were without a king, a ship came sailing into their harbor. It was filled with treasures and weapons of war, and in the midst of these warlike things was a baby sleeping. No man sailed the ship, it came of itself, bringing the child, whose name was Sailed. Sailed grew and became a mighty warrior and led the Spear Danes for many years as their king. He had a son named Beowulf, who became a great warrior and king. Our story begins with Hrothgar, king of the Danes, a descendant of Sailed. Hrothgar, in his old age, built a splendid hall where his thanes gathered nightly to feast and listen to the songs of the gleemen. The hall is called Heorot. One night, as all were sleeping, a frightful monster, Grendel, broke into the hall, killing and carrying away with him 30 of the sleeping warriors to devour them in his lair in the sea. Nightly the visit was repeated and terror and death came over Heorot. The warriors tried to fight the monster, but no weapon could harm it. This situation continued for 12 years. At last the rumor about Grendel reached a young hero named Beowulf, whose uncle, King Hygelac, ruled over Geats. Beowulf was a man of immense strength and courage. When he heard the story about Heorot, he decided to fight the monster and free the Danes, who were his father's friends. With 14 companions he crossed the sea to liberate the Danes. Beowulf was welcomed in Heorot with feasting and storytelling. But when night fell, the fear of Grendel fell upon the Danes, and all left the hall after. King Hrothgar had warned Beowulf about the frightful danger of sleeping in the hall. Beowulf expressed his intention of remaining in the hall with his men, proudly saying that since weapons had no effect upon Grendel, he would fight the monster with his bare hands. His men stayed with him to spend the night in Heorot. At midnight Grendel came bursting the door inwards, laughing at the thought of the feast of men flesh before him. He seized one of Beowulf's warriors, crushed his head, tore him from limb to limb, and swallowed him. Beowulf watched the monster approach the bench where he lay, and as Grendel drew near, he reached out to grab the hero. Beowulf grabbed and clutched the monster's arm in a grip of steel. Terror struck the monster, and he tried to flee from Beowulf's clutch. Tables were overturned, benches were ripped from the walls, the whole building rocked as the two struggled. Outside, the Danes stood shivering and quaking at the uproar. In the monster's attempt to get away from Beowulf, the sinews of his arm snapped, a wider wound opened on his side, and the whole arm was wrenched off at the shoulder. Grendel escaped to his sea home to die, shrieking and howling in pain. Beowulf hung the monster's arm on a beam on the roof. The Danes came and everyone rejoiced in Beowulf's victory. That night a great feast was held to honor Beowulf, and the Danes once more slept in Heorot. But the mother of Grendel, an equally horrible monster, came again, like her son, carried off Hrothgar's men. The old scenes of sorrow were renewed in the morning, so Beowulf determined to kill Grendel's mother.
He followed the tracks of the monster across the fen to an inland sea and dove into the dull, murk waters. Grendel's mother rushed at him, crushing him down. She bit and clawed at him, but his thick, strong armor saved him. On a wall at the cave Beowulf caught sight of a magic sword. Snatching it Beowulf swung it at the monster and killed her. He saw her dead before him, and as he cut off the monster's head, the magic sword melted in his hands. The poem ends with Beowulf's last adventure. Beowulf, now an old man, had reigned 30 years, greatly beloved by his people. One of his subjects had stumbled upon a great treasure guarded by a dragon. The man had seen the treasures and had taken a beautiful vase away with him. That same night the dragon, belching fire and smoke, descended upon a village and killed all the inhabitants. Again, Beowulf went forth to champion his people. In this fight with the dragon, Beowulf fought the fire-breathing dragon, and although he slew the dragon, he swallowed some of the fire. He met his death amidst the enormous treasures of the dragon. He was buried in sorrow and received signal honors from his men.